You'll tell him the truth one day, but for now you'd rather preserve your son's innocence for as long as possible.
Never did I think I would say our favorite murderer, our sexy serial killer, is back in our lives, baby. Joe Goldberg is in the 5th and final installment of You that just dropped on Netflix today. And while he might be taking names and slashing bodies on screen, off screen, has Penn Badgley become the last feminist heartthrob that we've all been waiting for?
The only man who could play a narcissistic, antisocial, psychopath unaliver, and his character could still get it. I don't know what's wrong with me. Oh, Penn Badgley, I like you.
Who would have thought that Lonely Boy would go from outsider to icon and be exactly what all of us need in 2025?
Somebody's watching me. It's Penn Badgley.
In this video, we're going to break down the evolution of Penn Badgley and how this quiet king has gone from outsider to icon and be the leading man that we've all been waiting for. See, because the internet has raised the bar, and Lonely Boy seems to be one of the only ones who have made the cut. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's AshleyB TV. I'm a former TV news reporter and Hollywood actress taking you behind the headlines. If you love pop culture and entertainment breakdowns as much as I do me a favor and hit that subscribe button and help me reach my next goal of 5,000 subscribers. We really appreciate it. Stick around towards the end of this video because I'm going to be sharing how I have a personal connection to Penn Badgley that seems kind of random, but actually launched my career in Hollywood. So you're definitely gonna wanna hear that. But for now, let's dive into the evolution of Lonely Boy. Unlike most men and honestly actors in Hollywood who love all the attention on themselves, most people who become actors are the type who, are the outgoing, the loudmouths, the attractive ones. Penn admits that he actually was never those things. He just ended up liking acting because he needed to make friends as a kid in Issaquah, Washington.
In that particular period of 12, 13, 14, I was a bit horrified by very, very, very self-conscious, very extremely self-conscious.
About what?
Probably mostly the way that I looked and then also the way that I sounded. Well, before my voice changed, like anybody, I had a bit of a high and nasally voice. And so also I moved to become an actor when I was 12. So I was simultaneously pursuing, this career. And I mean, I had no idea what I was getting into, but I think that made me self-conscious. I was pretty chubby, and there was a period where I was fat. That happened to have a big impact on the way I felt about myself. It did. It really did.
So how did Penn Badgley become our anti-toxic leading man? Well, there comes a point in every teenage girl's lives where there's always going to be that bad boy poster on their walls. It would be the Chuck Bass from Gossip Girl, Ryan Atwood from The OC. You've got Pacey from Dawson's Creek. Am I saying I'm a millennial without saying I'm a millennial? Edward Collins from Twilight. You have them all. Jesse Mariano from Gilmore Girls. I mean, we love our bad boys. But then there comes a point where you're like, okay, this is cool. I get it. Toss and turn, keeps me up all night, the butterflies. But then the butterflies, they start fluttering just a little too fast. And you're like, gosh darn it, I can't keep up. And I just want a boy to take me out to dinner and take me to the movies, maybe drink a little teeny, and then take me home without expecting anything. I want the boy who will support my neurosurgeon dreams, but also my stay-at-home mom dreams. I want a man who's going to be my equal partner side by side, not put me down, not be condescending, not try to mansplain all over me. And why? Why is that so hard to find? But eventually, ladies, we do. We find it on screen and off screen, and on screen and off screen. That seems to be Penn Badgley.
For people who grow up in homes where there isn't a lot of intimacy, I think what they crave is that, you crave what you see in the Notebook or whatever. And we didn't have that then, but the Titanic. I'm not a romantic movie or romantic comedy person
really?
At all.
Feels like you are, Penn.
But the Titanic, I loved. And I didn't see it a bunch the way everybody did, but I just thought, good Lord, I wanted that. Love comes in so many forms, and it's actually tragic for us all that we have conflated it so completely with just sex. But from a very young age, that's what I wanted.
Just as we're figuring this out, Dan Humphrey comes into our lives, and he's different. He journals more than he parties. He reads novels that he can actually recite literature. He's not a trust fund baby. He actually has substance. He can hold a conversation. He can ask questions. He kind of is mysterious because he doesn't actually need you, but he wants you and would treat you like a partner, like he did for Serena and then Blair. Oh my gosh, Dan and Blair. And fast forward to the show You that made its way on Netflix about 6 years ago, and he plays an actual serial killer, and somehow we can't get enough of it, ladies, because Penn is the exact opposite of Joe Goldberg in real life.
He's actually taught me what not to do, and I don't mean the obvious things like don't murder. Joe, it took me nearly my 30s to learn that. But I think it's the ways. So this show isn't really just about a killer. This show is about all the ideas we have about love and where desire can turn that into something closer to possession, manipulation, coercion, jealousy, And so I think if anything I've learned from him just the subtler ways in which I can relate. And then it's like, all right, I don't want to follow that to its end. And again, I'm not talking about murder here. I'm talking about the very small things.
Yeah. But then the lesson.
Real life, his Instagram is filled with climate change activism, and his podcast, Podcrushed, is full of middle school confessions. Penn gives brooding, but with a conscience. It's like every girl's dream. He's smart and will listen to me? Why is that so hard to find?
Welcome to Podcrushed. We're your hosts. I'm Penn.
I'm Nava.
And I'm Sophie. And I think we would have been your middle school besties.
Sharding in our Catholic schoolgirl uniforms.
I also don't know if the world knew how absolutely delicious his voice was until he started podcasting and then being on the show You. The show producers of You must have been like, wait, Dan Humphrey, Penn Badgley's voice is absolutely iconic, and we just could eat it alive. We could eat up every single word he says. He needs to actually get his own app that's one of those like Storytime, Calm apps that just tells us nighttime stories to sleep. Although now that he's played the serial killer, it might give us nightmares, so I'm not quite sure. But drop me a comment and let me know if you want Joe Goldberg kind of singing you to sleep.
You see, up until that point, I'd been homeschooled. Like eat lunch with your mom every day. Homeschooled. What drove my parents to the decision that 8th grade was the right time to throw me into the layer of miscreants that is middle school, I'll never know, but...
See, we knew we liked him in Gossip Girl, but it was really what he started doing behind the scenes, like opening up and talking about what it means to be a husband and a dad and what he's learning every single day and being very disarming off screen, especially on his podcast, that really makes women go, what? This is actually our feminist hero that we've all been waiting for, a man who will take accountability and understand that he's not perfect, he's not showy, but this is the type of energy I want in equal. Someone who also doesn't think that they're perfect but wants to equally grow.
I can just sit and listen with utter patience, I think, because that character, that's what I do all day. You notice no lines. Yeah. There's no lines in that clip.
Penn Badgley has become the internet's safe space, somehow without even trying, and that's what makes it even better.
Okay, so how do you feel about casual sex? Not now, obviously, I know.
Again, show me anyone who's able to have it. Truly. And I'm not just saying who does it.
Yeah.
Plenty of people do it. Show me someone who's actually, what about it is casual? Again, I'll wait.
When You Season 4 was in production, Penn announced that he no longer wanted to do sex scenes out of respect for his wife. And that statement literally broke the internet. I don't think I've ever heard an actor come out and say that, except for Kirk Cameron, who said he didn't want to kiss his wife and was only doing Christian films like Fireproof at the time. And of course, that's a very specific genre. Well, Penn Badgley, who plays these very sexy roles, that's a huge statement for someone like that who's built his career in this lonely boy energy could say. Now, whether or not this is achieved in season 5, he says, you know what? It's not that I'll never do something like that. It's that it needs to be very intentional now. And I'm obviously going to make that decision with my wife, but I don't want you guys throwing this stuff in whenever you feel like it just to amplify it. Like, it needs to be super intentional. And the internet literally lost it. And it's not just a crush that women around the internet have. It's a sigh of relief. Like, thank God, another man who's not trying to be our feminist hero, be our savior. He just wants to be our grounded equal.
Was a perfect example of what I like to call white brother-in-law energy. If white man, you wouldn't mind dating your little sister. College educated, drives a hybrid, most likely has a country house, in touch with his feelings, understands that critical race theory is very real, but perhaps most importantly has just enough rhythm to survive the black function without embarrassment. I can just hear my aunt saying, "Okay, Penn," when he stays on beat for 30 seconds with the cha-cha slide.
And I think Penn is really waking women up to what they actually want in a life partner. Like, for me, I know in my 20s, I was just all about the guys who took up a lot of space and had a lot of attention, and that was just so intriguing. But it's actually my husband who had that kind of more Penn energy, who didn't necessarily need a woman in his life, but wanted one to walk side by side, hold hands, and do life with. And I'm like, this energy is exactly the safe space that I need and I love. And it's so absolutely refreshing. Let's talk about his podcast, Podcrushed. So while other guys have a lot of like vulgar type of stories and very like Joe Rogan type of energy, trying to like show us how smart they are, it's Penn, who kind of went under the radar in his very underdog way, who decided to have a podcast taking us back to those middle school, unmasked, let's really get deep into our consciousness conversations with his hosts, Sophie and Nava. And the podcast is really like vulnerability mixed with soft jazz and microphone intimacy.
We go back enough for you to know the kind of person I am. And it's like we're trying to do something meaningful at the same time to have fun. I guess every interview is theoretically trying to do that, and people will say that, but at least here we we share some history, and you can trust me on that.
Thank you, brother. No, I wanted to kind of come in cold, but I know you well enough that, there would be some depth to it and some meaning. And
but I don't have any bad memories of you, so that's good.
Great. Memories of you. And we'll leave it at that.
Not only do you love the stories, but you also love how much Penn listens. And he really listens, like he does in all these clips that we're playing from the Call Her Daddy interview that just dropped this week with Alex Cooper. But he also consciously tries to add to the conversation. Instead of just talking, he specifically slows down. And it's almost like too slow for me because I love talking and I love listening to things at 2x speed. But he slows down and actually listens. And that is so magnetic, especially these days when we're just so over like the Ryan Reynolds of the world, where all this male energy just feels very like shouty and masculine and very showy. We don't want that right now. We want soft energy that's real and grounded. See, we're in a new era. It's like we're all growing up together. We are no longer in the bad boy era. We are in the men who radiate safety energy and that era. We don't want the guy who's going to keep us on our toes and wonder each day if he's going to leave us. We want the man who we know is going to show up for us day in and day out. And he's not going to let the dramatics that sometimes we might bring into the relationship let him steer off. He's going to be our solid rock, our solid anchor. It's the guys who I was talking about that I was very attracted to in my 20s. It's the Ryan Reynolds types. It's the people who are always on, always performing, always stealing the spotlight, that all of us have just grown up and grown out of that energy, and we don't want it. And it's the men who don't need it that become the heartthrobs, and that's exactly why Penn Badgley has become the internet's heartthrob. Talking about not having the savior energy, a part of that is also owning up to when you know that you can do better. You know you've done something wrong, and it really takes not having an ego and setting your ego aside to admit, hey, in this moment, I was the wrong one. And I love how Penn Badgley does that with his son right here and actually learns a lesson from his son.
As a parent, you're constantly being brought in touch with, I didn't have that. I mean, I've said this elsewhere a few times, but the first time that I felt that I needed to say I'm sorry to my now 4.5-year-old, I think he was 3, maybe freshly 3. It was a minor moment. He would not get in the car seat, as any parent knows. And anybody who hasn't has kids is like, oh, shut up about the fucking car seats. Yeah. Is it really? Yeah. It's like, yeah, it can be hard.
It's a battle.
It's really, and by the way, it's reasonable for them to not want to get in a car seat. They're strapped in. They can't, and if they think it's going to be 2 hours, like to them, that's a lifetime. That is a lifetime. You see how many phases a 3-year-old goes through in 2 hours. You want them to sit strapped in the entire time?
Good luck.
So I'm with 3-year-olds on this, but I had to get him in and I started to get impatient, go figure. And, but the key thing to remember, or for me, like fatherhood, parenthood, until about 2.5, it was like, in terms of losing my patience, like it didn't happen. It didn't happen. I'll lose patience with my wife, but with the kid, with a child that small, I mean, I noticed that I was losing my patience in a way that was like, I was speaking to him in a way that I'd never spoken to before, which is kind of short, you know, like a little dickish, you know,
You're like,
I mean, let's not talk about his behavior. Like I was starting to take it like as though he's not 3. And that's what we all do as parents. Eventually you lose perspective and you're like, treating them like somebody who's much older, and that's not fair. That's not fair to them at all. So I was being really impatient with him, getting him into the car seat, and I said, "You're right. I don't like the way I was speaking to you.
But you still have to go in the car seat."
Yeah, and I was like, "But you still gotta get in the fucking car seat." No.
These interviews that are coming out with Penn Badgley, you can just tell he just like gets it. I feel like he gets women, he gets men, and when he doesn't, he admits to it, and he's like, "Okay, explain, ladies. I'm ready to listen. I'm ready to listen is the key."
But when this happened, I realized like, oh, but certainly in terms of my father, I think just their generation, the way they parented all of us, I was just like, oh, that was new.
And honestly, maybe we weren't ready for it in the early 2000s, but dang, we are ready now, especially all of our millennial women who have grown up, whether they're with their partners or they're on their journey to finding their partners. Penn Badgley is a great example of what women want in their partners. And for now, whether you're with the partner or not, he is our Hollywood boyfriend. Even if you don't necessarily love talking about your feelings or you don't love the books he reads or his actual hobbies, it doesn't really matter because you respect people who just stand in their truth and stand in who they are and just own it. I call it effortlessly cool. Shout out to my friend Madeline who has this energy. Penn Badgley has this energy. And it's just like, hey, I'm gonna do me. I don't need to go to parties. Why do I need to do that? I don't need to have my name on the Walk of Fame. Cool if I do. Of course, cool. But I don't need it.
You're in a certain town, people will say, you should try going to LA. I mean, it's not good advice. It's just not good advice.
Why?
Are you going to make it?
You did.
Are you going to? Yeah.
Look, what?
I'm not.
You're like, I'm the 1%, Alex.
No, but this is the thing though. It is to a degree a fluke. It just is.
You think?
I'm not saying there's no talent involved. I'm just saying those of us who make it are something of the exception that proves the rule, because the rate of failure in this town is high. It's high. It's high. It's a bit tragically high for people who want to make art and want to do things, want to perform. And it's like, you know, to me, it's not a meritocracy. You know what I mean?
And that's what we really are starting to gravitate more towards now. You know, I talk about social media evolving all over these years. And even around 2020, we loved seeing people being flashy with all their money and all their cars and their houses and their Ferraris and all the things. And now we just don't want to see it. I think the world has really stripped us down, you know, post-COVID, post-strikes, post-tariffs. It's like all these things going on. It's really stripped us, and we just don't have the energy for BS anymore. We don't have the energy for filters. We don't have the energy for glossy, fake things all over the internet. We've been exposed to too much. We see through it. We've gotten too smart. That's exactly why we gravitate towards characters, but also the actors behind the characters that literally just show up as they are, unfiltered, unapologetic, and just being themselves and owning it. Take it or leave it. And if you want to take it, great, like get on my train. But if you don't, like that's cool too. I don't need 1 billion subscribers. I don't need 1 billion followers.
6 to 24 months, that runs its course. Then you have to enter into a different kind of relationship, one that we don't see a lot. You know, we don't see it modeled a lot, hardly ever. So then you have to think to yourself, like, well, what is a relationship for? Not just like, what am I in this for? What is a relationship for? That's also a question I pose. What is a relationship for? Not just what is it doing for you? What are relationships for, you know? And at some point, I think you just have to realize that like you're developing your own narratives and biases that have to be kind of constantly shaped, you have to check in with them. And so it just means, it's just another level of listening. And then once you get into parenting, it just adds like a level of complexity that's really beautiful and rewarding. When you're parenting, actually, sometimes it can be really practical stuff. Like we have to schedule time for any kind of intimacy we want to have. Like if we want to go out, that needs to be in that calendar. And you have to find childcare. It's all this stuff. It's like, it's very real.
So fun fact, as I was listening to Alex Cooper's interview with him, I always listen to everything on 2x speed because I just love listening to everything fast. So when I was getting these clips for you guys, I had to listen to it on 1x. And I realized how slow he actually does talk and how many breaths he takes and how he really takes his time with his words and responding and thinking about what he's going to say. And I was like, wow, he actually really does listen. I get it. The internet's right. He does listen. But it also takes a lot of patience from us too. Because I'm like, okay, get to the point, Ben. Come on. Let's hurry it along. On a serious note, I also love that when big things happen that might be in his distance, in his proximity, but maybe not the very closest, he doesn't act like other celebrities do and makes a big scene out of it. Again, not taking the spotlight. So when Michelle Trachtenberg passed away this year, who played Georgina on Gossip Girl, she wasn't a series regular. She was, I believe, a recurring guest star. Keep me honest in the comments. But he says in his interviews, like, you know, she was always very joyous. I wasn't that close to her. It's obviously been more of a decade, but she was always very professional, but very joyous. And he kept it very simple. It's kind of nice that he's not first to jump on the bandwagon, like, the world is waiting for me to make a statement. It's like, the world probably isn't. The world is probably wanting to grieve and mourn, and we don't need every single celebrity on the planet to make a statement every time someone who's like in their distance does something, like other people that we've seen from Gossip Girl do this. So it's kind of nice that he took that beat, he took that moment, kind of give the attention to obviously Michelle and her family and let them mourn and grieve, and then say something very, very kind and very grounded about her. You know who else quietly kept their cool post Gossip Girl? Leighton Meester, our forever iconic Blair Waldorf. She didn't chase fame, unlike Blake Lively, who constantly was rebranding herself and sticking her face on the next billion-dollar enterprise. Leighton Meester kind of dipped out of the spotlight. She found her other incredibly brooding, same type of effortlessly cool energy in Adam Brody, got married, had kids, made her way back onto television, but she wasn't flashy, she wasn't showy, she just does her thing and does it freaking well. Leighton Meester was hands down the best actress on Gossip Girl. And did she ever really get her flowers? Because she wasn't really that loud. So she kind of got overshadowed by the tall, loud, showy blonde that was causing a scene with her legs and her hair.
What about you? First job? This has been my only job. This is all I know how to do. This is my only skill.
Hey, you know what? Respect for that, too.
Out.
And here's the kicker. Leighton is having this like quiet comeback that no one's really talking about. She's starring in the show Good Cop, Bad Cop on the CW. And it's a CW crime dramedy where she plays a sarcastic, no-nonsense detective. She's also going to be joining the second season of Nobody Wants This, which is an indie cult hit that I have honestly watched 3 times all the way through, which I haven't done with any other show. And get this, she is going to play the arch nemesis to Kristen Bell as the other love interest to her own real life husband, Adam Brody. Yes, the OG Seth Cohen.
Did you know it was going to hit like this? Because I know my friends and I became obsessed immediately. The Ick episode was the best. I mean, I don't know if I'm one to say. I feel like we watched it together before it came out, and I was like, it works, it's so good. And you're like, yeah. And then literally like the day before, I think there's like no real way to know, especially with streaming now, like you kind of can't tell.
You never know.
And then it came out and it was like,
could never have anticipated.
Yeah, you
could never have anticipated.
Yeah. Honestly, Leighton is giving the same energy Penn does, just like cool, unbothered, talented, emotionally grown, and we are so here for her slow burn comeback. There are so many making a comeback. Like, I want to do a whole deep dive on Lindsay Lohan. Let me know in the comments below if you want us to do a deep dive on Leighton Meester and Lindsay Lohan's career glow up. Definitely let me know. And now, bonus story time. I promised you I would explain to you how Penn Badgley brought me to Hollywood. It was actually Penn Badgley's mom. So I'm in Seattle at the time, and I'm like 18 years old, and somehow I got stuck in Seattle. That's another story, but I'm doing acting, and I do this acting competition out of LA. And Lynn Badgley is like top of the list for people who want to meet me because I won like first place in commercials. It was some weird competition. And so I'm so excited because Gossip Girl is on TV at the time. So I'm like, I'm going to be on Gossip Girl. This is amazing. Wow. And she brought us to her home, me and my dad, and she wanted to sign me. And it was so fun. She had posters of Penn and Gossip Girl all over her walls. And she did give some sage advice. She was my manager for probably 1 to 2 years. I will say she was very hands-off, probably needed more guidance back then, but it was so cool because I saw, I'm like, wow, your son is actually on Gossip Girl. And it really gave me the hope and the confidence that I needed to actually just take the leap and go to Hollywood by myself as like a 19-year-old and just go for it. And I'm so thankful for that experience and just launching my career. So that's my little story of how somehow I am connected to Penn Badgley. I never got to meet him. He was dating Blake Lively at the time. They lived in New York City. I know Lynn at the time always said Blake loved baking, and she was very nice and sweet. That was all. I didn't hear anything at that time. I wish I had more tea for you guys, but I don't. But that is my story of how I'm connected to Penn Badgley. And I always thought like, oh my gosh, we're going to be in a scene together. This is going to make my career. And that's not exactly how Hollywood works, but it's still cool to have those moments. And I'm forever grateful that Lynn Badgley was one of the first people to believe in me. So Penn, if you hear this, hey. Hey, I was in your house. Cool. If you enjoyed watching this video, you are definitely going to want to catch up on what exactly is happening in the Baldoni versus Lively case. So watch this video next. I'll see you in the next one, guys. Ciao.
Show me life, show me